A young man looked down at his reflection in the polished silver tray that he was holding. In the dimly lit room, with only a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling, he saw the face of a dead man looking back at him. Hollow eyes staring straight ahead, pale skin stretched tight over sharp cheekbones, a mouth twisted into a perpetual snarl. The young man's face was a mask of menace. And though it wasn't his doing, he knew he would live with its consequences for the rest of his life. The boy had been 24 years old when he first stepped through the doors of the club, all bravado and brawn. He left the club that night broken, beaten, and bloodied, having witnessed things that turned his youthful arrogance to ash. By the time he was 26, he was ready to make his move, taking what had been taught to him, twisting it and turning it until it was something uniquely his own. He had studied his prey, watched them from afar, learning their routines, habits, likes, and dislikes. He had listened to every word they had ever said and every rumor about them. He knew who they were, where they lived, where they worked, who their friends and family were. If he wanted to, he could take any one of them right now, break them, use them, and discard them like yesterday's garbage. He did none of those things, not yet anyway. But the knowledge sat heavily on his shoulders like a tailored suit. It was a heavy burden to carry, but it made him powerful. Powerful enough to walk into a room full of men twice his age and demand respect. Powerful enough to turn heads and have conversations that others would normally be hanged for having. But the power came with a cost. His days were filled with paranoia, always looking over his shoulder, never knowing who to trust. His nights were filled with nightmares that clung to him long after he woke up. The faces of the men from the club still haunted him, their screams echoing in his ears. He was trapped in a prison of his own making, unable to move forward or backward. He needed an exit, a way out. So he started planning his escape. First, he needed to find a way to legitimize his fortune. Money earned through illegal means could be taken away just as quickly as it was earned. He needed something solid, something that would stand the test of time. He found his answer in the unlikeliest of places, a small antique shop tucked away on a side street. With a little creativity and a lot of money, he turned the shop into a popular tourist destination. Day by day, it grew in popularity, bringing in more customers and more money. It became the perfect cover for his activities. With his finances secured, he turned his attention to his safety. He knew that if he left town, his enemies would follow him. He had to get out, but he also had to stay in control. The solution came to him during a late-night stakeout. Secluded cabin in the woods was the perfect place to lay low. It was far enough away from town to keep him safe, but close enough to watch over his interests. There, he could wait until the heat died down and then come back with a vengeance. As the months passed, the cabin became his sanctuary. He spent his time hunting, fishing, and hiking, immersing himself in nature. It was peaceful, quiet, and calm. For the first time in years, he felt at ease. It was almost enough to make him forget about everything he had done. Almost. Then one day, he heard some news that made him change his mind. A new family was moving into town, a powerful family, with deep pockets and even deeper connections. They were the kind of people who could make or break him. If he didn't do something soon, he could kiss his freedom goodbye. The thought sent a jolt of adrenaline through him. He had waited this long. What was a few more months? He decided to stick around and see how things played out. He watched them from afar as they settled into their new home, a sprawling mansion on the edge of town. He learned their names, their ages, their interests, their routines. He knew everything about them before they had even unpacked their boxes. Then he did the unthinkable. He paid them a visit. He introduced himself as a local businessman, a successful entrepreneur with a legitimate business and a clean record. He had nothing to hide. He was confident, charming, and polite. He made them feel welcome in town and offered his services. He was eager to make a good impression, and he knew exactly how to do it. They accepted his offer, and he became a regular fixture in their lives. He attended their parties, played their games, and schmoozed their friends. He was always there with a smile and a handshake, never intrusive, never nosy. But he was watching, always watching. He learned their secrets, their weaknesses, their fears. He knew everything about them, and then it happened. One of them made a mistake that could cost him everything. He knew he had to act quickly before anyone else found out. He contacted the authorities and laid his trap. When they arrested the man, he was surprised, but he had known it was coming. He had seen the signs, the rumors, the whispers. He had known that he was living on borrowed time. Now his enemies were gone, and he could finally relax. Or so he thought, because the next day he got a call that made him freeze. Got the police. They had found another body, and they wanted him to come down to the station to identify it. He arrived at the station and looked down at the corpse lying on the metal table. It was him, or what was left of him. His clothes were torn, his skin was bruised, and his eyes were wide with terror. But what shocked him the most was the look on his face. It was a face he recognized, a face that haunted his nightmares. He had killed that man in cold blood, and now he was dead. He had won, but at what cost? As he drove home that night, he realized that he was no better than they were. He had killed, maimed, and destroyed, all in the name of survival. He was a monster, and he hated himself for it. He tried to put it behind him, to move on with his life, but it was too late. The damage was done. He could never be the same again. He was trapped in his own personal hell, unable to escape the demons in his past. One day he got a call that changed everything. A woman on the other end of the line told him that she knew who he was, what he had done. She said she had a choice, either confess and go to jail, or keep quiet and let her do the talking. He knew it was a trap, but he had nothing to lose. He agreed to meet her, and that's when he met her for the first time. She was beautiful, elegant, dangerous. She introduced herself and smiled. "Welcome to the family," she said. "We've been expecting you." He had no idea what she was talking about, but he knew he was in too deep to back out now. He had become a part of their world, and there was no escape. She explained that she was his sister and that their parents had been killed in a car accident when he was 8. He remembered the day vividly, the black car, the screeching brakes, the smell of burning rubber. But he had blocked it out of his mind, buried it deep inside him. She said that their father had been a member of a powerful crime family, and that he had inherited his father's position. Now he was a member of the family, whether he liked it or not. He tried to refuse, to tell her that he didn't want anything to do with their father's business, but she wouldn't hear it. "It's in your blood." He argued, he fought, he resisted, but it was no use. He was pulled back into the world he had tried so hard to escape. He was a mafia prince, and he had no choice but to play the game. He tried to do things right, to follow the rules, but the world was a dangerous place, and mistakes were costly. He made enemies, powerful enemies, and they were waiting for him to slip up. He lived his life in fear, always looking over his shoulder, never knowing who to trust. He couldn't even protect the ones he loved. He lost them all in a brutal attack that left him broken and defeated. In the end, he understood the true meaning of the Mafia Code. There is no exit, no surrender, no mercy. You are in for life. And if you try to leave, they will find you and bring you back, dead or alive.